resolution just outlining that we met on this date and did the review.
Great, thank you. So,
So is there a motion to that effect?
yes, is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Is there a second? I'll second the motion if no one else will.
Yes.
I prefer not to, but if I have to, I will. So, with that in mind, Madam Secretary.
Mr. Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Banks?
Yes.
Mr. DeFalco?
Yes.
Ms. Rossier?
Yes.
Mr. Adler?
Abstain.
Mr. Phillips? Mr. Kennedy?
Okay, so we move on to the next overall title of new business. As I mentioned earlier, in case.
Just take a 2-minute, I have a board member question I want to address privately for a second.
Absolutely, no problem. Very briefly, while we're in this break, I do want to remind anyone who came in late that we have removed application number 2025-2 for site location 47 Mill Street, a de-use variance to allow cannabis manufacturing. That has been pushed to the next meeting at the request of the applicant. So if you were here to testify on that, please save your testimony for when that does get revisited, hopefully next month. But under new business, the only new application that we will be hearing tonight is application number 2025-1, site location 434 Newcomb Street, applicant the Reginald Lewis Group, which is seeking a C variance, a bulk variance, to construct a single-family home.
Once you take over here.
All right, we are resuming the meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Jonas Singer. I'm an attorney, Wellesley Singer in Leetown. I represent the Reginald Lewis Group. We have filed an application for both variances regarding property known as 434 Newcomb Drive, Township of Mount Holly, also known as Lot 20.01, Block 65 on the tax map of the Township of Mount Holly. Just for the preview, property is located in an R2 zone. It measures 4,500 square feet. It's undersized. It's a pre-existing condition. So the lot area and the frontage is pre-existing. I have two witnesses this evening. Mr. Will Holly, the general manager, the managing member, I should say, of the Reginald Lewis Group, and Larry Murphy, our engineer. I do wish to amend the application to request that the front yard setback be established at 25 feet in accordance with testimony that will receive from our engineer. And that will necessitate an increase in the rear yard setback variance from 30 feet to 25 feet. So we're just pushing the home back a bit so that it lines up with the existing homes in the neighborhood. Having said that, Mr. Holly sworn in.
So for the board's reference, I did review the notice provided by the applicant, and it's timely and sufficient so that the board has jurisdiction as far as, notice, and then we can proceed with completeness and so forth. Just for your reference as well, this is a single-family home, so it's not like you require a site plan, but there has to be full plans. Do you swear, Mr. Lewis? Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth before this board?
Yes.
So before you start, I think, the chair prefers to, have completeness, make sure that the required submissions were submitted.
I would, thank you, Madam Solicitor.
Any waivers, from the submission requirements? Were there any?
No.
So you recommend that the application be deemed complete?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a motion to deem the application complete?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you. Please state your name for the record.
Sure, William Holly,
Mr. Holly, how are you affiliated with the Retro Real Estate?
I'm the managing member.
And, are you also the contract purchaser for the subject lot?
That's correct.
And as I recited, the lot is known as 434 Newcomb Drive in Manhattan Township.
Yes,
And it's located in the R2 zone, correct?
that's correct.
Now, you've authorized the filing of this application seeking the bulk variance that's required for, construction of a single-family home.
That's correct.
And you've retained professionals to prepare the plans that have been submitted, correct?
Yes,
Also submitted, and I'll identify it as A1, is a rendering of, the home. Is that the home that is to be constructed?
yes,
That's a 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath, 2-floor, single-family house?
yes. I'm sorry, how many beds?
4 bedrooms.
So we'll mark this as exhibit A1, and if you, it's an architectural rendering, I don't remember it being in the submission package, was it?
I don't believe so.
So would you submit an electronic copy to the board secretary?
Yeah. I will do that. And you've retained Mr. Murphy to be the engineer on this site?
Yes.
I have no other questions on this one. Any members of the board have?
Are there any questions from members of the board?
This was Mr. Holly?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I swore you in as somebody else, but you're Mr. Holly.
He answers to the number.
Great, seeing no further questions from this witness, Mr. Suman.
Thanks.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth before this board?
I do.
And would you state your name and your affiliation for the record?
Lawrence G. Murphy III. I'm the applicant's engineer.
Mr. Murphy, would you please briefly describe your educational background and professional affiliations?
Sure. So I graduated Rutgers University with a bachelor's degree in science. I've been practicing civil engineering for 21 years and 27 years with focus on land development applications such as this one. My license is current in the state of New Jersey, and I've been qualified several hundred times at this point and qualified by the state as an expert in the court.
So the board finds Mr. Murphy's qualifications sufficient for acceptance as an expert in civil engineering and site design?
Yes.
And that's it.
Thank you. Mr. Murphy, did you prepare a plan for bulk variance that has been submitted this evening?
I did.
And would you briefly describe, describe to the board what is being proposed?
This is an unadulterated plot plan, grading plan / SESC plan that was prepared by myself and submitted to the board without any changes. Up to the mark of the exhibit for
A2,
A2.
and it's a site plan,
It's a plot plan.
plot plan, what?
Can you describe what we're doing?
Sure, we're proposing a single-family house on an undersized lot. The lot itself is 45 foot wide by 100 foot deep in the R2 zone, known as 434 Newcomb Drive. It's an undeveloped site with the exception of a leftover driveway. The application is proposing a two-story house, 24 foot by 50 foot, 24 foot wide by 50 foot deep, with two-car garage, the entrance on the right, and a double wide driveway servicing the building. Based on discussions with the board engineer, we're gonna widen that driveway to 18 foot. By the depth of the house is set back from the property line. The house is set back 25 foot, where the average setback based on measurements taken in the field is 27 foot. And the side yard, it complies with the side yard, is set back 8 foot to the left, side lot as you're looking at the lot, and 13 foot to the right. Providing the required combined side yard setback is 16 feet. 21 foot is proposed, 16 foot is required, for 15.75, but 8 on each side gives you 16. And a rear yard is 35 foot is required, and we're proposing 25. And from a open space area, we're exceeding the minimum 30% required. We're providing 65.2% green area. From a drainage perspective, based on some further discussions with the board engineer, we're gonna provide the roof drains to a dry well or a rain garden with a bubbler in the front to then have that water detained to meet the township ordinance requirements. And whatever is excess will actually run to the front of the street and through a bubbler and overflow. And being sensitive to what's in the backyard, the property pitches from the curb to the rear yard. So on the left property line, it pitches towards the rear. On the right, it pitches to the rear. We can't capture that water and bring it forward. So the best we can do is capture the roof area and also send the pavement forward to minimize the amount of water going to the rear that we can't control. So we feel that's the best design possible without having a stormwater conveyance system within the street. And we're proposing the entrance on the right with a limited number of steps.
As far as parking, the plan does comply with RSIS, correct?
It does. It provides 2 parking spaces in the front and then 2 cars in the garage, which equates to 3.5 from RSIS standards. And with a 4-bedroom, I believe, is it 2.5 that's required? Yeah.
With respect to, let's first go through Mr. Lamo's report of February 13th. We spoke about the front yard setback and then paragraph 1. We indicated the setback, that in paragraph 2, would be a 25-foot setback instead of a 30-foot setback. We've indicated number 3, the existing lot size and frontage, the existing condition is non-conforming, correct?
It's an existing condition. It's consistent with a number of the lots surrounding the property to the left and right and across the street.
Number 4, RSIS is being complied with, as the number of bedrooms and the parking on site. Number 5A, 5B, drainage.
Will comply with.
5C, lighting.
5C, we're requesting a waiver for because it really relates to an off-site parking lot for multiple units or a apartment complex. Rather than a driveway, you typically don't provide a 1-foot candle for a driveway. What you typically do is you provide a light over the garage and then a light over the entrance, which is consistent with how almost all houses are designed. So we're requesting a waiver for that. We don't feel it's appropriate to apply to a single-family house.
5D,
We do provide the landscape area or the non-impervious area on both sides of the driveway. We are requesting a waiver because we're not providing a 6-foot wide vegetated buffer.
and again, that's more in the commercial setting than the residential setting,
It
correct?
is, that would be appropriate for a commercial development next to a residential multifamily.
Paragraph E of paragraph 5E, spaces, the width of the driveway is sufficient for 2 cars?
It is, and we've widened it to be 18 feet based on discussions with the township board engineer.
F, comply.
We complied, we're providing 65.2% prior to the widening of the driveway and shifting the building back, but we will definitely be over 30% because we're already at 65.
Paragraph 6, rental.
Due to the topographic conditions from the front to the back, you can't provide swales at 1.5%. That really applies to a new development where you're doing a subdivision and you have control of all of the grading, the common property lines, and you're able to actually drain it and design it to be 1.5. We can't touch someone's property, just past the property line, therefore we can't comply with the 1.5%.
Paragraph 7, we will provide, we will build, we are.
Agreed.
Paragraph 8.
We will, we're in agreement with that, so we'll comply.
Providing details of the utility trenches.
Right.
Number 9, road opening permit, bonding and inspection, obviously will comply with. Paragraph 10.
So there's a driveway on this property that appears to be servicing what may have been an old house or for the lot to the left. But it is an encroachment on this property and will be removed as part of this construction.
Paragraph 11.
We'll comply with that.
Provide cross-section for the driveway.
Yep.
Sure. 12, curb sidewalk permit required, comply.
Yes.
Is it fair to say that 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, through 26, we will comply with?
Yes.
Balance of district on those before we will comply with.
Correct.
With respect to the planners report, there's one variance left in the rear yard setback.
We just, clarify that, you said the adjacent property was set back 27 feet?
On average, so I can give you the breakdown of each one, but on average it's 27.
So I think the 25 foot's the minimum that you'd set back, but you're supposed to match
The average.
the average, so.
So that the house immediately to the left is set back 23 foot. The house, one house further down is set back 18, and then the next one towards the end is set back 22.
So you're farther back than they are.
Then they are. And set back 35 foot. Sorry, what?
The one on the right makes the average go.
The one on the right actually is pressed all the way, so the lot just to the right of us is actually for a garage, for a through lot. It appears to be for a through lot to the street, on the opposite street. So that one, we'll call it as this is an outlier. I didn't count that because it's a garage, not a principal structure. The one is set back 68 feet and is in, we'll call it too close to the rear yard setback. Okay. Sorry, 61 feet. And it's too close to that. That one is, I believe, it's 430 code.
On the left?
Go to the right.
I think,
So-
yeah, I think 25 is
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, yeah.
Because we're actually further back than the three to the left.
Right.
And the 68 is just an outlier.
So for the rear yard, they're gonna be set back at 25 feet, is it?
25 feet.
Okay,
So the challenge with a shallow lot, if you have a two-car garage, what you're left with the building envelope, which is 40-foot, two-car garage, and your firewalls, 6-inch firewall, 6-inch by energy code, your exterior wall, 6-inch firewall to the house, and then a 6-inch wall to the rear, you're left with an 18.5-foot room behind the garage. So it actually creates a very awkward space to try to work with for the kitchen and a living space. And so that creates a challenge. If the lot was conforming, which would be 60 foot by 120, you'd actually have a 50-foot deep building envelope with a 35-foot front yard setback. And our building would actually fit in a conforming lot. And what, sorry, go ahead.
how does your building size compare to all the?
I was just going to go over how it complies with what we're allowed with the building envelope that's on the lot. So the building envelope that's on the lot allows 1,185 square feet, and 1,160 square feet, and we're proposing 1,185 square feet. So effectively, we're matching what the footprint we're allowed to have. It's just a slightly different shape. Because alternatively, if we went as wide as we could, you'd end up with a 20-foot wide garage, and then you'd end up with a 7.5-foot room to the right of the garage, which is 3.5 foot walking. I guess I could do a library there with books and nothing else. So really the shape of the lot, the depth and the width creates an awkward building envelope that would actually create an awkward interior layout and create a hardship for designing that interior building.
So I guess, the applicant is maybe in the future proposing to put a pool or something that would encroach farther back or?
It would, but I believe pools are accessory structure and therefore they aren't subject to the same principle of rear yard setback. And we're well under the maximum impervious surface. We're at 35%, where I believe 70% is allowed. So there's plenty of room for a pool or a patio.
So the pool would take that backyard, that 10 feet they're asking for, you take that and some, basically what you're saying, accessory use?
Yeah, I mean, it's not proposed that this.
No, I understand that, I'm just
Yeah.
trying to, one of the things you gotta demonstrate that it's not gonna, mess up the ordinances or the master plan, just what kind of negative impacts. And I'm just trying to,
So we would have a building envelope that would essentially be conforming. The footprint would be conforming with the exception of being over by 15 square feet, which I really say it's conforming at 15 square feet over.
What do you think about keeping the front yard at 20?
well, it makes it a little bit more difficult to have your cars in the front. I mean, I guess it all depends on how much rear yard do you need. That's what I was sort of getting, what do you plan on doing in the rear yard?
will be
At this
no
point, nothing.
There will be no yard.
So there'll be, a 25-foot yard, which you could have a patio, you could have, I've done pools in tighter square footages. But if you look at the rest of the lots, the 429 Newcomb is, sorry, 436 Newcomb, which is just to the left, is a 45-foot wide lot by 100-foot. The lot, basically further down the street is 55 by 100. Both of those are undersized. The 5 lots across the street, lots 9, 9.02, 9.03, 9.04, 9.05, they're 50-foot by 129-foot, which is 6,450. So really, all of the homes surrounding this lot are all undersized. And if they built a new house, they would need to come here and get the same relief that we would, similar relief. So it's consistent, our lot's consistent with the neighborhood.
And one of the things when the board has to consider with the ordinances, and the way they're established, and then they made the point that it's an undersized lot. If they were strictly adhered to what that proposed, an undue burden on the applicant. I mean, if you lopped off 10 feet from the house, I guess theoretically you could conform, right?
You could,
What
but
would that do to your house, and is it marketable?
You have a 20-foot deep garage, you can't have anything less for it to be usable.
Right.
And then you have actually 8.5 foot. My math is 20 foot, you'd have 18.5 foot, which is tough to have, you'd have 7.5 foot on the right of the garage and 18.5 foot behind it. So I have 18.5 foot, I need to get a kitchen, we'll call it an eating area, a living space, and then I have an awkward 7.5 foot hallway that, I don't know what you're gonna do with that. So it creates just it creates a hardship for the interior layout with that short deck.
The balance of the comments of the planner are similar to your engineers. We will comply with there's a tree. I think, there's an existing tree close to the property line, share the lot. You'll have measures can be taken to save the tree.
You could, which property line is that on? Because you could shift the house away from it, 20.02.
Could you, that retaining wall, could you shift the retaining wall? Is it necessary to be on the property line?
So the purpose of the retaining wall is to capture as much water and send it to the street rather than letting it go back. That was the design intent there. Because it's not a high retaining wall, it's we'll call it a landscape wall. You could construct that wall and honor the roots, and basically that's just filling in a little topsoil to get the fish forward. So if you broke the block a little bit and the tree root was there, it would still serve the same purpose. I'm not concerned about the integrity of the wall, given it's gonna be,
I'm just wondering, you mentioned you're trying to get the water to go towards the street. If you put the downspout at the corner of the building, it would still go to the road, right?
Okay, so we're gonna do the downspouts, connect those to basically a dry well and have a bubbler to the street. But we're also trying, if I don't put the wall there, what happens is the driveway will, eventually, the water will route around and then back down, it will sneak back. So it's really to prevent that from happening. I can bring that in if you'd like a foot or 2 foot off that property line.
That's kind of what I was getting.
Yeah, I can accomplish the same thing.
Yeah,
So
right.
moving the retaining wall?
We can move it 2 foot into the lot.
Towards the driveway. Because right now it's on the property.
Yeah. And I'll save it.
That would help, yeah. You don't want to
It'll help.
look around trees and things, but if we moved it out, it's kind of difficult to see where the trunk and the roots are.
Speaking of drainage issues, just very briefly, you mentioned a rain garden earlier. Is that the sort of thing that you intend to maintained through some sort of deed restriction, or is that only an initial design?
Generally, the DEP's best management practices requires that to be recorded with the property and deed notice for everybody that's buying it, so they're aware of the maintenance obligation. And a O&M operations and maintenance manual would be created, that would be recorded with the responsible parties.
Great, thank you.
And then, so this is proposed market rate housing, correct?
Yes.
So the applicant will be subject to the statute for 1.5% contribution to the Affordable Housing Fund, or the equalized, 1.5% equalized assessed value.
Yes.
So are there any other trees that, in your yard, that property would have to be removed, or?
No. So it will appear any will have to be removed. If we shift the wall from the left property line over, we're probably outside the drip line.
I have no other questions of this witness, any members of the board or professionals there?
Members of the board?
I have a comment. So you're 5 foot off, you have 5 additional feet on the right-hand side.
We do.
Okay. And if you expanded the width of that building 5 additional feet, then you'd have something that's 12 and a half feet running alongside of the garage. And to keep the same area, square foot area of the building, if you move the building back 10 feet, if you average, made the wall 10 foot shorter in the back, you'd end up with the same amount of square foot area, and you'd have a wider room inside. So that looks like a solution, unless that house is locked in.
So the roof, the whole building is 24 foot wide, and the garage is 20. And then there's 1.5 foot of walls, so I'm left with 3.5, 4 foot for what's to the right of the garage, so adding 5 foot would bring it up to 8.5, 9.
Oh, I thought I heard you say it was 7.5 feet.
So that's what I said I could get to, if I made it as wide as possible.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Yep.
Any other comments, questions from the board or professionals?
There's just one question. Confirm you said it sits back, is it 20 feet or 27 feet?
So it was proposed on the plan at 20. We amended the application to push it back to 25. The average setback that I measured on the street was 27.1. And the 3 houses closest directly to the left were 22, 18, and 23. And I'll need to just double check those numbers. 22, 18, 23.
Okay, so with the amendment, we're closer to, yeah.
So we're further back than the closest 3 on the left. And if we bring it forward, you'd actually reduce the total impervious of the driveway, increase the backyard.
Any other questions from the board or professionals?
Did you provide testimony on the height of it? Well,
It is based on your ordinance 28.74.
Seeing no further questions, I'd like to open it up to public comment. We will go row by row. Is there anybody in the first row who would like to make comments on this application? Anybody in the second row? Please state your name for the record and your address if you live in town.
Yes, my name is Nicholas Fisher. I live at 436 Yukon Drive.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Absolutely, yes. So, just to let everybody know, I'm obviously next door. I've been taking care of the property at 434 since I moved in about 7 years ago. Never met the current owner, just took care of it because I wanted to look nice. So, mowed the lawn every Saturday, it's on that. This is kind of easy to turn down. I mean, this is not a minor variance. The lot is 37.5% smaller than the requirement of the overall square footage. It significantly does not meet all but one of the zone requirements for the lot size. I think we're setting a pretty dangerous precedent in which we will allow such an egregious deviation from our current zoning requirements. Building a home on this small property will have an adverse effect on the quality of life in the area. So meaning privacy, overcrowding, parking. This is a dead-end street, okay? Yes, these houses were built in 1950, but having something like this will just, the aesthetics of the neighborhood, the property values, obviously will be going down. In a town where, when we're talking about, I mean, my street floods all the time. So, I mean, we don't have any drainage. If there's any kind of water coming in, it's obviously coming to my house. Obviously very, very concerned from that standpoint. But, you know, it just, we have these in place for, you know, protect the residents of Mount Holly, right? You know, they're all here right now. And, you know, we work from home. There'll be construction during the day, obviously. And that'll be a very big nuisance. And we're looking for the board to say, hey, this is just not a good fit. There's obviously properties in Mount Holly that need to be refurbished. But to build a house on this lot, I urge all of you guys, I don't know if you've ever been down Newcomb Drive, but it's not gonna be good. The dead end street, appreciation of property values, just the quality of life, on the street. We take pride in our street. Everybody gets up. There's not a wrapper outside. Okay, so I hope I hit all the top points, but I would just ask yourself, if you lived at 436 or anywhere on that block, would you want that house being built there? And I can guarantee you probably would say no. I'm scared about safety concerns, any kind of fire hazards, the foundation of my home. If this were to pass, which I hope it doesn't, I can assure you, I will take every legal action possible to go after any kind of builder, anything with the property. Yeah, I mean, if they're gonna be digging, the foundation of the home is gonna be rattled out. You can go through certain requirements, whatever the case is. This is a safety threat to our street, and just bring that to your case. I'm leaving it up to your hands. And obviously other people here have concerns as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
One question. I'm sorry, your last name again?
Excuse me?
Your last name again?
Fisher.
Mr. Fisher, isn't it true that your lot is the same size as this lot?
I don't have to respond to any questions.
Okay. I think that is. Thank you.
Anybody else from the second row?
Hi, I'm Amy, Amy Fisher, and I live at 436 Newcomb Drive.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. So my concern is a safety concern. One of our neighbors had a fire on the block. Thank God nothing seriously happened. We had 7 fire trucks down the street. Nobody could get down but one. If it was a major fire, so now we're gonna have construction. What if we need ambulance? 1 car fits down our street at one time. There's no way out. It's one way in, one way out. So you only have that little bridge, you can't get in or out. So anybody at the other end of the block, if something happens, we have to wait another minute or 30 seconds for a fire or an ambulance. You're taking that away from someone's health, life, everything. You know, that's my biggest thing is the hazard. I don't think this construction should be allowed. We don't have any of the variance. You guys seen it, we see it, we hear it, I live there. We have kids on our neighborhood who run up and down, they play in the driveway, there's trees, you know, we take care of the property, me and my husband. We wish to let it be, we hope you will agree with us, what I said. Just keep it a nice community, nice little family community that we have. You know, we are your taxpayers, we are part of the Holly. No offense to anybody, they're not. They're just builders coming in. They don't care what happens on our block or what happens to our neighborhood. So, thank you for your time, and be safe to see great consideration. Go with us.
Thank you, Ms. Fisher. Is anybody else from the second row who would like to speak? When you get to the stand, can you please state your name for the record and your address as well?
Catherine Turner, 428 Newcomb Drive, Mount Holly.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Okay, I object to this new property being built because it will make the area more crowded. And in particular, I'm concerned with parking, because when we have parties or even on an everyday basis, right now parking is pretty good, but you add a house with a driveway that takes where people can't park, parking will become much tighter. The next thing is the water. We don't have very good drainage on our street. When it snows, when it rains, the front of my property routinely fills up with water all the way to over the pavement and right up to my front lawn. I actually brought in a huge amount of not compost, but wood chips to create a sponge effect. What's going to happen if you put in a house on that empty lot, the water draining out to the street, some of it will go down to the lake, but some of it will back up to my property and increase the problem of flooding, which my husband and I have been trying not to have water come into the basement for years now. The third thing is, it's a dead-end street. And the concerns that my neighbors spoke about in case of a fire, that is a very real concern. And also the construction that will go on while this is being built will really tie things up. I mean, we've got a lot of families, all the houses are filled, we don't have any house empty, and it's a very nice neighborhood. But I just am not in favor of this house being built here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Turner. Anyone else from the second row? Seeing none, is there anyone from the third row who would like to speak? When you get to the stand, please state your name and your address for the record.
Hello, my name is Doug Leonard. I live at 437 Newcomb Drive.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And what was your first name again?
Doug Leonard, my first name is Doug. I learned a lot of things by reading into this. The one thing that I learned about Mount Holly is the master plan. And the first goal, the general goal of the master plan, is the overall quality of life of Mount Holly residents. I still have yet to see how this does anything for the quality of life of Mount Holly, because it disturbs the whole quality of life on Newcomb Drive. But literally, essentially, that is a townhome in the middle of a single family road, Newcomb Drive. It's a garage with a door on the side. You go to any one of these developers right now, townhouse condos, that's what they're building. That's what they're trying to build on this street. So the first general goal, you guys all know, they may not, and still is to improve the overall quality of life for all Mount Holly residents. I fail to see how allowing this out-of-town developer to build a half a duplex, essentially a townhome in the middle of Newcomb Drive, on a lot that's too small in a street that already has a number of more homes than most streets in the city. Already crowded parking on the road where most Newcomb Drive residents park. So I fail to see how allowing this proposed structure to be built on that which doesn't meet code improve the quality of life for any Mount Holly resident, just the pockets of developers and lawyers and everybody else is tied to this. There's so many other properties in this beautiful town. Since 2000, this has been on there for 24 years, the overall quality of life for Mount Holly. I was born here, got married here, this town has come full flip. They probably don't even know the history. If you walk around and read the placards about the Hessians and everything else that goes on in this town, it's gonna build this house, sell it to the next person to buy it. Probably gonna be a rental property because that's not a dream home, that's a 55 and older. But I just can't see this being done. And I pray to really look into it and see how the quality of life will be affected on our street. It's taking up 18 foot of parking on the road already. Like I said, there's plenty of other properties. Plant has bought plenty of properties, he's done around there, and turn them around, buy some streets on Mill Street, get the sidewalks done. And get something to come visit and see, like our neighborhood is gonna be disrupted, and I appreciate you guys taking your time to hear me out. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Leonard. Anybody else from the third row who would like to speak? Third row. Seeing none, is there anybody from the fourth row who would like to offer comment on this application? Anybody in the fourth row? Please state your name and address once you get to it.
If I get to the microphone, I will. My name is Kingston Ward. I live at 439 Newcomb Drive, beautiful downtown, convenient to the beach, Mount Holly, New Jersey.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Am I allowed to ask a few questions, which I think are pertinent, as opposed to answering any at this point? Am I allowed to ask a question?
I don't see why not.
Okay. If this variance is given, will this enhance Newcomb Drive for all the people who live there?
So we can't answer that, but its rhetorical effect is appreciated.
Right, okay. Can I ask another question? If you get this variance, will it improve the life of all the people who live there?
The applicant, the applicant.
So that, but
answer
it
those
is.
But I don't hear anybody jumping up and down saying, boy, you're not that. You will. Okay. Let me see if I can clarify a couple of things. There's 3 streets, Newcomb, Cripps, and Merritt. 2 of them are dead ends. One goes around the lake on the other side. The question that really comes up here, actually there are 3 dead ends, now that I think of it. Newcomb Drive has 13 single-family homes on it. It has 2 single-family homes at the top of it. There are 15 on our street. The street next to us, Cripps, has 12. The street next to us has 11. We are the most congested street of all the streets. Number 2, if I may say so, if I see this correctly, on section A, application page 3 of 5, it says the requirements are 7,200 square feet. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Is that correct? And does it not say that the proposed is 4,500?
That's correct.
Okay, is that not a 38% differential?
I'm not great with math, but I will take it you have, I will trust your math.
Okay, so if I told you next week we're giving you a 30% rate reduction in your pay? Okay, I just want, again, well, I'm trying to be logical here. Okay, let's go to the frontage in the lot. It says 60 would be the minimum. That's what it says. And it says 45 is what they asked for. Is that not a 25% reduction? And I continue to go down the page, and everywhere is a reduction except for the quote, 8 foot on the sides. But I'd like to at least just have a complicated discussion on that. If I take most of you, you're somewhere between 5'7" and 6'2". If I lay you down on the ground, that is not enough of room to move around. 8 foot is not usually, it's just a requirement. Very few single-family homes have 10 foot on each side. They have 10, 12, 15 foot. They always do. Everybody does. That's called a single-family dwelling. It's the way you live. It's the way you want to live. It's the way we live. It's an issue. Last but not least, on this particular, I noticed the maximum building height is 35. Do you know anybody who has a 35 on our street? Anything like a 35? No. Because when these homes were built in 1950 to 1954, They're built off an architectural approved drawing that everybody went with all through the back of the schools. They're all the same, right? Yeah, we all know that. So we're somewhere around 22 to 24. And what this house is going to do is oversize the house next door, which means there's going to be a buildup of other things that come with that besides the water, because there's going to be mold. Just a thought, it's a consideration. Last but not least, okay. If you give this variance on this property, would this not be considered under law a precedent?
No. So
Oh, it's not a precedent, so
No.
there's no builder who could ever come
You
in.
asked the question, if you wanna wait for the full answer, you can.
You certainly are welcome to answer.
Yeah, so.
But you didn't answer
each
the
prop-
others.
Each property, each application is of itself considered separately. So you're not creating a precedent here, and some people think that that's the case. You review each application as it comes before you separately. Sometimes last in line, they say, oh, you did this, and these other applications, and sometimes, yeah, it makes sense for the first or the second, but no, not for the third. So they're not creating a precedent. Each application heard is its own, it's heard on its own merits.
I can go with that. If you say that's true, I can't actually say that that's true because I haven't been to the court of law on this topic. But I can tell you this is clearly a talking point. No matter how you cut it, this will give somebody a talking point. So I would not approve this. It's an awfully congregated street and it's overcrowded. And we really do not have the room, and that's not large. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. I recall you were sitting on the fourth row. Is there anything else? I said thank you, and I was just saying, if I recall correctly, you were sitting in the fourth row. Is there anyone else from the fourth row who was there? And at this point, anybody in the back of the room who would like to speak?
Hey, Board, how are you? Kim Burkus, here tonight, 29 Hillside Road. I'm here tonight.
I'm sorry, did you say your address, 29?
29 Hillside.
Okay. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth before this board?
Yes, I do. Here tonight as a resident, to support some of my neighbors here, who have grave concerns about us approving, or this particular group of variances being approved. Just wanted to share some of my thoughts, from a perspective of, again, a resident of the town, and just the concerns about overbuilding already happening and not wanting that to be a trend, and to continue with that. So just a few points I wanted to make. This does not feel like a minor variance. The lot, again, seems as if it's about 4,500 square feet with a requirement of 7,200 square feet. That feels particularly significant in this case, and I think that needs to be a huge consideration. It does not meet all but, I think, one of the zone requirements in reading the application on page 7, and I mean, that just feels like a heavy lift, and there's reasons for these requirements, there's reasons that they're in place, and I want to make sure that we're taking that into strong consideration. I do believe we will be setting a precedent. If not officially, then it certainly would be a talking point and potentially a strong one for the next person who comes up and tries to get a variance as such. And so I would, again, please request that you take that into consideration as well. This is a considerable deviation from our current zoning requirements. Building a home on this property particularly, it is going to have an adverse effect on the quality of life in that area. And the things to consider, in my mind, are the privacy, that it would be more overcrowding, parking, aesthetics, and it also, we can't deny the fact that it would likely have an adverse effect on the neighboring property values, which is not something that I would want for anybody over there. In town where flooding is a regular occurrence and getting worse and worse, I have grave concerns about runoff, drainage, et cetera. It sounds like it's going to be a difficult thing and a tricky thing to address already. And I'm not quite sure that we're going to be able to maintain the things that we're talking about, that they're sharing. The hardships that were shared in the presentation earlier, they do seem to be a bit self-imposed. It feels like a 2-car garage and a double-sized driveway. I feel like we are already, not in addition to
this, concerns about the overall size of the lot. It feels like we're also going pretty big, on something that's already too small to support, a home. And then, noting that there are lots not meeting these current ordinances nearby, next door, or on the same street. They may or may not, I do not know, have been built before these ordinances were even put in place. And to use that as an argument for this variance, is interesting, because to me, it feels like adding to something that's already overburdened. So I would hope that you guys take these, thoughts into consideration, and appreciate your time.
Thank you, Ms. Burgess. Anyone else from the back room would like to speak on that?
Good evening. Arlene Pfeiffer, 494 Mary Street, Mount Holly. I swear to tell the truth.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
So help you God? And I'm sorry, what was your address again?
494 Mary Street. I live up by the Mount. My property has 5 building lots when I bought it. I can see myself, since we're setting, and I think we're setting a precedence. We do have people that are very good with figuring out how they can put more properties, making our town more dense for their benefits. I have 5 building properties, 5 small properties. What takes me from trying to make a variance for that? I wouldn't want to burden my neighbors, and I don't want to see us become a city. We're a beautiful town. I don't know how many times we've had people come and talk to this, but I really think it's going to burden that neighborhood. And it's going to set other people in looking at all the lots. And if you look at a tax map, you'll see on Evergreen Street, we have a farm up there. We have an old Holly farm. It was a beekeeper. I think it's 2 acres. I can't wait to see when somebody gets their hand on that property, what's going to happen. We have a lot of properties that back in the day were 25 by 75, because we are a small town that was row homes. What stops us from somebody else coming in and saying, well, I can put a couple more houses on there. I'll sue the township. They let it happen here before. I just really think we have to look at our residents and what we're setting ourselves up for. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else from the back room would like to speak?
Good evening, Max Jacobs, 434 Crips, directly behind me.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth before this board?
I do. So, I just want to begin by echoing my neighbor's excellent arguments on 2 accounts. I think both quality of life and also the zoning irregularities that were pointed out. In both its construction and its occupancy, it's clear that this proposed construction will certainly disturb the peace. To make it more specific to 435 Crips, we're directly behind the proposed construction. As the gentleman referred to, we are very concerned with the notion of this rain gate that seems to be a matter of open question just in the plans themselves. We as a current residency do have flooding already in, especially in our basement, and we are deeply concerned that this will only increase the amount of flood and water that goes into our basement. Secondly, the notion that there would be a pool on this lot, I think is quite absurd. And third, and I think most importantly, in the redevelopment plan that was issued in 2024, there was a clear emphasis on sustainability. And I think it would behoove the board to think about, rather than building new construction, as one of the previous neighbors mentioned, why not redevelop existing?
Thank you, Mr. Jacobs. And then before I call anyone else, I would just like to briefly say that's the second time we've heard the phone go off. If you could please silence your phones or turn them off so we don't have any disruptions for the remainder of the meeting. I see there is one more person who'd like to speak. Please introduce yourself and provide your address when you get to the microphone.
Sure. Yeah, my name is Nicholas Ferrara. Address is 21 Colts Neck Terrace in Hamilton, New Jersey. I do work, I'm an employee for the company trying to do this. We're a professional company. We do a lot of this. You don't have to worry about these construction issues, these hazards. I hear a lot of hypotheticals, and you know what? I get it. Every time we try to do this, the neighbors come out and complain. They like the way it is, or they like to use this vacant lot. They have been for a while. But I think we're not taking into account
the owner here of the lot. We're allowing, you know, depending how you decide, you're allowing other neighbors to decide what someone can do with their lot here, okay? You know, there's rights that come along with owning the lot. The neighbors might not like it, I get it, but how are they liking it? This is their lot, and people are telling them you can't build here. And I think we're not taking into account the taxes that will be produced by this place. I think that something exact opposite of this, than the lower property values. Quite to the contrary, this, a nice new construction, it's a beautiful design, you sell all the time, will raise property values of those around you. When it sells, it sets a new ceiling for the neighborhood. So all you guys will actually benefit from the sale. So I just want to think about the owners. Okay? I get everybody's complaining, they always do, and I get why. And I'd probably be doing the same thing if I lived on the street. I want to keep it the way it is. But there are rights that come along with owning the property. The people around them can't decide what happens here. As long as we do it, and we do it in a way that's proper, and this is actually going to benefit them, and it'll benefit the tax base here, and it'll also help with, we have a lack of housing. People are having trouble getting housing out there, and we're trying to prevent a nice new home for a nice family to come in and enjoy this beautiful town, just like they all get to. So I just want to put it on the record, everybody's been against it, I want to say something for it, and just remind you guys.
I'll buy the property.
Mr. Farrar, and in case I missed anyone earlier, if there's anyone else who would like to speak, please walk to the microphone and introduce yourself and provide your address.
Hi, my name is Amber Kopervas, and I'm at 100 Madison Avenue.
What was your last name again?
Kopervos, Kopervas.
You swear or affirm to tell the truth?
I do. So I actually just have a few points or questions about the health and life sciences zone. Oh, I can't ask them.
You can come back at the regular.
This is the public comment for an application.
Just for the
Not
application.
agenda. Okay, all right. Well, on this application, I would just like to point out, despite the previous person before me's comments, that is kind of how zoning and town government work. There are rules, but thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on the application?
Jeff Eversmeyer, 203 Broad Street.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth before this board?
Okay. I'm familiar with those streets actually because I have an tea shop in Mount Holly. And whenever I have to go down there, sometimes I have to back the whole way down the street to get out, or I have to back in somebody's driveway to get out. So you're building houses, 4 bedrooms, so I guess it's required to have 4 cars, parking spaces. I guess that's what the situation is. So my question is, whoever lives there, they're not gonna park behind, have to move the car every time somebody in the garage wants to leave. They're gonna park in the street. And limited parking, there's always problems with parking there. So that's gonna be a problem, you know. You're not gonna have 4 people sitting in the driveway in the garage. So you're gonna add at least 2 more cars on the street most of the time, just out of convenience for the people who are living there. The other thing is now you've got more driveway, which means more runoff, which is not gonna, the water's not gonna sink into the ground where the house is now. So I don't think it, you know, maybe if they build something smaller, but it doesn't sound like they wanna do, they wanna get the most bang for the buck. And I don't think anybody, any resident, or if you live there, whatever, would just wanna make it harder in their street. And the other thing is, historic preservation has always been big in that Holly. It doesn't look at all like the rest of the houses. People come to our town, you know, it is historic Mount Holly. People come to the town, they go, boy, that's a beautiful house. I'm not to say, there are some Victorian houses in that neighborhood. But people go there, they look, and then you've got this one modern house that's like out of the development. There's a bunch of, all houses with different characters. You're gonna build a house with a different, you know, a new flavor versus all the ones that have individual characters. They're all a little different. It's not mass production like you see in development. So that's what you're gonna do in the neighborhood. You're gonna have one house, looks like a development, in the neighborhood where all the houses are quaint and different, and this one big thing's gonna be sitting on the middle of the street. That's all I gotta say.
Mr. Eversmeyer, is there anyone else who would like to comment on this application?
433 Cliffs Drive. Sites, S-I-G-H-T-S. I wasn't planning on coming up and speaking so far.
I'm sorry, what was your address?
433 Cliffs.
And you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, the whole truth? Yes.
So our property is to the right. And with the runoff of the water, I think it's, we already have a problem with the drainage. It's gonna make ours even worse, and then we also get water in our basement, just like my neighbor at 435 next door to me. The parking, everything that everybody has said, I'm just gonna repeat it, so I'm not gonna repeat it, but it's just, I oppose it. I just wanted to put that on record that I oppose it. I don't think it's a good fit for our street. Thank you.
Sites. Is there anyone else who would like to comment on the application? No, if you already spoke, we are going to limit it to one, no, you, okay, I misspoke, I apologize, then please feel free.
It's really quick. We have a 100-plus-year-old man that's a World War II veteran that runs to sit out on the street, especially on beautiful nice days. He's been at this house, I wanna say, over 60 years. And that's just to give you an idea how long people that move to this neighborhood are gonna live there. This is not a forever home, this is not a dream home, it isn't a rental home, it's a temporary first home. And it's gonna be flipped and flipped. And we have people that live here for decades and raise families here, and this isn't one of them. Nobody's gonna grow old there.
Thank you. Your name again?
My name is Doug Leonard. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Leonard. With that, unless anyone else would like to speak, we're going to close the public comment period on this application. Okay, seeing no one else, the public comment period for this application is now closed. Do I hear do we need a motion now?
Yeah.
Okay, we can just close it. All right. Mr. Singer.
I heard residents, and I appreciate their concerns. But the board should understand that this is a typical spot lot application. There are homes on each side of it. The existing lot is undersized per the ordinance. It's a classic ordinance of variance application. The lot area, lot frontage, and both existing conditions. My engineer did testify as to the need for the rear, we've complied with the front yard setback to match the existing frontages of the neighboring properties. And the need for moving the house back so we have the same size because of the configuration. The only variance that we are creating is a rear yard setback. All of the other codes or variances that, all of the criteria in your ordinance are being met, except for the existing conditions, which is lot area and lot frontage. But the only other variance that's actually being created by this application is a rear yard setback. We've addressed your professionals, your letters. We've agreed to comply with the request of your professionals as indicated on the record. And I would ask that the board approve the application as this is what is intended for variance relief. You have an existing lot in an existing neighborhood where it's improved on both sides and additional lands can't be created. To add, now many of the lots, as testified to by my engineer, are similar in size and similar in frontage. If God forbid one of those houses were destroyed, they would be in front of you this evening requesting the same relief because of the existing conditions of the lot. So I would ask that the board approve the application as amended and allow for the rear yard setback. Thank you.
Yes, Madam Solicitor, please summarize.
So this is an application to develop an undersized lot. The requirement for the zone is for a lot size of 7,200 square feet. This lot exists at 4,500 square feet, which is a pre-existing non-conforming condition. The lot frontage is pre-existing non-conforming condition of 45 feet, where 60 feet is required. They submitted an application for front yard setback relief, but they agreed to revise the design to shift the home backwards, so that it will comply with the front yard setback requirement of 25 feet. But that variance relief is still needed for the rear yard, and they proposed 25 feet where 35 feet is required. And Mr. Kalani's letter does outline the standards required for granting this type of bulk variance in terms of municipal land use law, and positives outweighing the negatives. They've agreed to certain changes and conditions as outlined, and I'll just repeat them. They've agreed to widen the driveway to 18 feet. They will add a rain garden to meet the township ordinance and requirements, and will run the pattern the drainage to the front of the street to alleviate any drainage issues, noting that the property pitches to the rear. They will comply with the RSIS in terms of the number of bedrooms and so forth, because they have a 2-car garage and 2 parking spaces available provided in the front, so they believe that it complies with the parking requirements of the RSIS. With respect to the comment letter of Mr. Alino, they've agreed to comply with comments 5A, 5B. They've requested the waiver for 5C because they believe the lighting requirement relates to an apartment, so you have to grant a waiver from that requirement. And they've also requested a waiver for comment 5D because they will provide buffering or landscaping on both sides of the driveway, but it's not going to be 6 foot wide, so a waiver is required for that. As to comment number 6 of Mr. Lyman's letter, we need a waiver as to the slope because they're not able to formulate the 1.5% slope. They'll comply with Mr. Lyman's comments 7, 8, 9, 11, and 12 to 26. And they'll make a change for number 10 as far as the services to the older home. With respect to Mr. Kalani's letter, they agreed to make changes to the extent that they don't overlap with the engineer's comments. They do have to comply with the tree replacement ordinance in the event that trees of a certain caliber are removed. They agreed to acknowledge that this is a market rate house, so they would have to make a 1.5% contribution to the Affordable Housing Fund, 1.5% equalized assessed value of the improvements. They provided testimony about the changes. They're gonna move the retaining wall about 2 feet into the property to save the tree. And I think that's the sum of the revisions made.
So on the stormwater, I think it's either a rain garden or a dry well.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Or either a rain garden or a dry well, okay.
Dry well.
Dry well.
Dry well.
So that's the summary of the revisions proposed, the conditions of approval. They have to obtain all required permits, pass all building inspections, and pay all taxes. And as is indicated in the letter, they have to comply with the standard for granting bulk variance relief.
Do you know if there's a building garage?
It's an undeveloped lot.
It's big. Okay.